And we're back. Okay, I gave you 70 hours to do some of these problems. And about half of you got the first one done. So let's go over these because I have random people in my class who say, "This don't make sense."
Now it does.
Every time I give a problem, not that I'm talking about you, Peyton, so just relax.
Now it does after you showed us that YouTube video.
All right, so let's watch this. This is our first problem. 1/3 plus 4/18. Now, some of you do the method where you'd multiply 18 times 3 to get your common denominator, and that's fine. I'm going to do it finding my least common denominator because I like to simplify it less if it's possible. So I put up here everything you're going to have to do to solve this problem. You're going to have to find a common denominator. You're going to have to change those to equivalent fractions. When you get your answer, you're going to have to find the greatest common factor of your numerator and denominator in order to see if that fraction can be simplified. Najane, you have a question about this question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I thought we were doing it.
Go ahead. Tell me my least common denominator. First, tell me what my two denominators are.
Denominators are 18 and 3.
Good, 18 and 3. So tell me my common denominator. Count by threes for me.
3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18.
Oh, good. Our least common denominator is 18. I need to change 1/3 to something over 18. I can leave 4 over 18 because it already has that common denominator. Because 4/18 is equal to or equivalent to 4/18. I need to multiply 1/3 by a fraction that equals 1. That gives me a denominator of 18. So Najane, 3 times what is going to give me 18? And we can count here. 1.
No. 6.
6. So I multiply this fraction by 6/6. And it works because 6/6 equals 1. If I'm multiplying by 1, I don't change the value. So Najane, what's my numerator here? 1 times 6 is?
1 times 6 is 6.
6. So now I have 6/18 and 4/18. I go back over here and look, because on that page you're working, there are some addition and there are some subtraction. And if you don't pay close attention, you're going to get mixed up and either add the wrong ones or subtract them wrong. So always go over and check your sign once you've found the equivalent fractions. We know now 1/3 is equivalent to 6/18. And you're going to kind of have to do some of this tomorrow on your own. So it's going to be imperative for you to watch and pay attention. I'm just saying. All right, Najane, 6/18 plus 4/18 gives me what?
6/18 plus 4/18 is...
The denominator stays the same. So what's 6 plus 4?
6 plus 4 is...
10. Good. Okay, when I'm adding the fractions, once I have a common denominator, I leave the denominator the same. When I find my sum, I just add the numerator. So we've done the least common denominator, which, as I mentioned yesterday in the videos that I'm sure you all went home and watched because you seriously want to understand this.
Yep.
I posted them on the Book of Face, Mr. McMurdo 5th grade. I posted them on the Tube of You. Just search Damon McMurdo. If you subscribe, it'll tell you when I put other ones up there. Okay, so we found least common denominator. We made equivalent fractions using that least common denominator. Now we must see if we can simplify that fraction. To simplify a fraction, I take my numerator and my denominator, and I find all of the factors of those. All of the factors. So Tristan, tell me the factors of 10.
10, 20, 30.
No, those are multiples of 10.
Oh. 2, 5, 1 and 10.
Good. 2, 5, 1, and 10. So is 10 prime or composite?
Composite.
Composite. Good. Oh, let's call on Hannah. Tell me the factors for 18.
6, 3, 18, and 1.
You're missing. Is it an even number? Is 18 even or odd?
Even.
Even. So every even number has 2 as a factor. So 2 times 9. Good. Tucker, tell me what they have in common.
A 1
Good.
and a 2.
Good.
That's all.
You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Greatest common factor is 2. Once I have found my greatest common factor, I divide both my numerator and denominator by that greatest common factor. So, oh, good. Gauge. 10 divided by 2 is? 5. 18 divided by 2 is? 9.
Yay.
My final answer for this fraction is 5/9.
Oh, yeah, I wrote that down.
Now, Mr. Antics showed you a different way to do it. So let's look at that different way to do it. You need to be able to understand and do this tomorrow.
Is there a test tomorrow?
You need to be able to understand and do this tomorrow. Thanks for raising your hand and asking that question. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the strategy that Mr. Antics showed us. And Mr. Antics told us how to find a common denominator by just multiplying the denominators together. So I would multiply 18 by 3. And Tucker, did you do this one this way?
No.
No.
Yes,
I did.
Okay, so what is 18 times 3?
36.
Not 36.
You have another Tucker?
It's 54. So the other way that Mr. Antics taught us is you can find a common denominator. This is not the least common denominator because we figured that out was 18. So now we can change both of these so that they're over 54. I don't care which way you use. When you get your simplified answer, that it needs to be what the simplified answer is supposed to be. So let's call Alyssa. What did I multiply by 3 to get 54? 18. So I multiply this by 18 eighteenths. What's my numerator? 18. What did I multiply by 18 to get 54? 3. So I multiply this by 3/3. And I get what? 12. And I get 12 54ths. The rules don't change. You still leave the denominator the same, and you add your numerators. And hopefully you're watching and not drawing on your desk, because that would be bad news, Bears.
Bears?
All right, so what is...
Rawr.
Peyton, what's 18 plus 12? 30. 30 54ths. Now, we've already done this problem and found out that that's not the final answer. Which means we need to find the greatest common factor of 30 and 54. the greatest common factor of 30 and 54. Riley, what are my factors of 30?
6 and 5.
Good.
30 and 1.
Good. It's an even number.
10 and 3.
Okay. Ends in a 0, so it's an even number. Every even number has 2 as a factor.
Oh,
Listen to them, they're telling you. They're correct.
15, girl.
Awesome. 15, girl.
15.
So those are all the factors of 30. Every factor pair of 30. The pairs that multiply together equal 30. Now the factor pairs for 54. Gregory.
The factor pairs for 54.
That's what I said. Good job.
What is 54? 2 and 32. Oh my god. You're doing good, man.
Okay. Shh. Our kindness, we're not really.
27.
Good. 3.
3 and 18.
18. 4. Does 4 go in?
Wait, I'm thinking. No.
No. 5.
No.
6.
Yes.
6 times what?
9.
6 times 9? 7?
How many numbers? No.
8?
No.
No. So now we're back to 9, and so we can, if we keep going up, it's going to be continue. If you do them in order, put the smaller, that way you can tell. 6 and 9 are as close as you can get, nothing between them. So now, my factors. Caitlin, what are my common factors for 30 and 54?
6. Oh. 3.
3. Okay, some of you are not watching.
2.
2
And 1.
and 1.
6.
So, what is my greatest common factor, Caitlin? 6. See, if you just multiply these two denominators, you're going to first of all have to list more factors. Second of all, your greatest common factor is going to be bigger than it was before. So now we need to take our original answer and simplify it. We do that by the greatest common factor. And Phoenix, what is 30 divided by 6?
30 divided by 6 is 5.
And 54 divided by 6?
9.
9. This is the exact same answer we got when we found the least common multiple.
I know.
And just finding a common multiple. The only difference is first of all, we had to multiply 18 times 3. And second of all, we had to list more multiples, or more factors of the numerator and denominator. Peyton.
Can I share you through it?
No, thank you though. Let's look at the second one. And if you're still not understanding this, please watch it again at home.
And again, and again, and again, and again.
Let's do a subtraction one.
Yay!
1/2 subtract 3/8.
Easy. Can I do it?
No. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, in the book it writes them horizontally.
Yeah.
It's going to be much easier to find your common denominators vertically. It's your choice. But when you miss it, because it's all cattywampus, my heart will not be sad for you because you're not following my directions. All right, so let's do it both ways. First of all, we need to find a common denominator. Heron, what are my denominators?
2 and 8.
2 and 8. Heron, what's my common denominator? My least common denominator? 8. So I need to change these so they both have a denominator of 8. We need to change these so they both have a denominator of 8. 3/8 has a denominator of 8. How many 8s does 1/2 equal, Bea? How many 8s equals 1/2? If I took these 8s over here, how many would it take to equal 1/2? 4. Good. It would take 4 of these to equal 1/2. So now we have 4/8 plus 3/8, which is what, Bea?
7 8.
Actually, it's subtraction. My bad. My bad. 4/8 subtract 3/8.
1 8.
1/8. If your fraction has a 1 as your numerator, it cannot. And I mean cannot be simplified. It cannot be simplified. But let's do it the other way. Let's do it the other way.
My way?
Shh. The highway.
Yeah!
All right, so if we do it the other way, the way Mr. Antics taught us, we multiply the denominators together to get our common denominator. So we would multiply 8 times 2, and our common denominator would be 16. So we would change both of these fractions so that they're over 16. Now I would have to multiply 1/2 by what, Peyton?
I don't do that, man. So
You can't tell me what 2 times what equals 16?
8.
8. So I'd have to multiply this by 8/8, and that gives me what here, Peyton?
8.
8. So 1/2 is equivalent to 8/16, and we saw that when we were working all these fraction pieces over here. What would we multiply 3/8 by to get 16, Peyton?
3/8. You would multiply 8 by. So you would multiply it by 2.
Good.
2 1 whole.
2 over 2, which does equal 1 whole. My numerator here is 6/16.
Then you would subtract those, and then you would get a number beyond.
Okay, so now I would also always make sure that I know what operation I'm doing. This operation is subtraction. Now I have 8/16. Subtract 6/16. That's hard to say. Davin, what is my answer? 8/16 subtract 6/16 gives me 2/16. Awesome. Well, the last time we did this exact same problem, finding the least common denominator, we got an answer of 1/8, which tells me we're going to have to simplify this problem in order to get the correct answer. Because if you left it as 2/16, Mr. McMurdo would go, oh, great, they got 2/16. They really know. Oh, they didn't simplify. Wrong! You are wrong! Yeah.
No, he's not. He's not okay. He's not okay.
Hannah in here?
So yes, so now I find the greatest common factor.
This is Hannah.
Oh.
This is Mr. McMurdo. So you haven't done anything this year?
No, we haven't done any math this year. I know it is November 8th.
No, what's this?
I know it's November 8th, and I should have begun teaching earlier.
You could have hit
That was
me.
2 journals flying across the screen.
He could have hit
So
me.
now, since we found out 1/8 wasn't the answer, because Davin told us that it was 2/16, we got to find the factors of 2 and the factors of 16. Davin, what are my factors of 2?
1 and 2.
Janelle, my factor's a 16. That's what I said too.
6.
No.
Oh, wait, no. 8, sorry. And 1 and 6.
Awesome. 4 and 4. So, Blaine, what is my greatest common factor?
2.
My greatest common factor is 2. I take and I divide my numerator and denominator by 2. Oh, let's go with Regan. What is 2 divided by 2? 1. Regan, what is 16 divided by 2?
8.
So we got the same answer. We just had to add an extra step in here by finding the greatest common factor.
1/8.
You need to know, yes, it was 1/8 the last time we did this exact same problem.
When did we do that? When did we do that problem?
Right before we did it this way, we did it finding the least common denominator way. But you have your own way of doing it. Which, did you get 1/8 when you did this?
I didn't do that.
Okay, good.
I was on 8, but then you went and you took a detour to number 11.
Yeah, because I wanted to show subtraction and adding since it's all the same. So, you need to know how to do this. Yellow cards are up. If you want to take pictures of them.
Wait, can you take
The
pictures
blue
of
cards are up. I did take pictures and put them on the book of face
Okay, thank you.
of both the blue and yellow cards.
Thank you.
So they're on there as well. Boom shakalaka.
God bless.
Peace out. Love ya. God bless. Be kind.